day 2 of a 3-day visit, the world's biggest democracy meeting one of the world's smallest. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi here in Israel, and after the red carpet welcome and the largely symbolic events yesterday, today is more about substance. Two countries with over $4 billion in annual trade looking to step it up. First was a face-to-face with Israeli President Reuven Rivlin, then a working meeting with Premier Benjamin Netanyahu, and later a far more emotional tone. Modi meeting with the 11-year-old boy who lost both of his parents in the 2008 terror attacks in Mumbai.
So, would you like to come and stay in India and Mumbai? You are most welcome. You and your all family members. They will get a long-term visa from my government. So anytime you can come, anywhere you can go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our own Jordana Miller spoke with 11-year-old Moshe Holtzberg's nanny. She is the one who saved his life during the attack where he was orphaned. Here's a little bit from her.
I was just waiting. I didn't know for what I was waiting. But this much I knew, that he was asleep in the 5th floor, and any moment this baby is going to cry. And I have to be there. So I was there. And thank God that I was there. Because even, I think God also kept me there, you know, to save him. So yes, I remember that very well. How many hours? 11 hours I was there in the storeroom. From 10 o'clock, you can say, to 11 the next day. Yes, mostly 12 hours I was waiting for.
And the events are still going on. Our senior international affairs correspondent, Owen Alterman, at an event that's bringing the Indian community together with the Israeli community. Tell us a little bit about what the goal there is.
Well, Narit, the goal is exactly what you mentioned, and we've heard a speech from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been speaking, both focusing on that people-to-people theme. Benjamin Netanyahu memorably talking about Israeli backpackers who famously go to India on what Prime Minister Netanyahu called the Hummus Trail, and saying that he'd like to see Indian backpackers come to Israel on what Netanyahu called the Curry Trail, talking about people-to-people ties between the two countries. Prime Minister Modi giving a lengthier speech in Hindi in which he talked about the contributions of Indian Jews to building Israel and also to building India, and then later on in his speech going on to the theme about how the relationship with Israel fits into Prime Minister Modi's own program for modernizing India, what he called reform, perform, and transform. As for this event, Narit, it's a magnificent event. Thousands of people from the Indian community in Israel, both Indian expatriates here to live or work temporarily, and Indian Jews who immigrated to Israel sometimes decades ago, but keeping a strong connection with India, have packed the hall behind me. Just a few hours ago, the area around me was packed with thousands of people in Indian dress, with Indian flags, with gear from the BJP ruling party. They are thrilled that Prime Minister Modi is here. He is the star of the show, thrilled to come out and to celebrate the connection as they see it between Israel and India.
Owen Alterman at that event in Tel Aviv. Thanks very much for that. And obviously beyond all of those sort of cultural celebrations is money, as is sort of always the case when leaders meet, and especially the case here. Dan Katarivas is Director of Foreign Trade for the Manufacturers Association of Israel. Dan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here, too.
Let's start with one side of this trade. Over $4 billion exchanged between them just in 2016. How important is India to Israel?
Well, first of all, the $4 billion, we must say that only half of it is really trade in goods and services, because half of it is diamonds, okay, that we import and we export, and usually we exclude that, and it doesn't have a big added value. But so actually we have $1.1 billion of export to India and 800 million of import. It is really nothing for a country of 1.3 billion inhabitants. So actually there is much more that can be done, and we have to diversify, we have to find new areas. Obviously there is defense, which is important, okay, but here again we have to find new areas, for instance in agriculture, medical devices, in environmental protection, and all other areas where Israel excel, where actually it's a priority today of India to deal with those issues. For instance, digital India is something which Modi has announced, or if you are talking about make in India, is actually try to build more industry in India. So Israel and the Israel industry has to find what are the complementarities between Israel and India, and we are in the process, okay? It's not yet there. The potential is much huge than what is actually existing on the ground, and this visit definitely, I think, will be a kind of a turning point, because until now, I would say that the relation with Israel, between Israel and India, were a bit kept under the table, okay? Because India, because of political reasons, geopolitical reasons, etc., hasn't actually publicized so much the relation with Israel. Now everything is up in the front, up in the air, up in the public, and we can definitely do much more. And again, those areas are water, agriculture, medical devices, and smart cities. Modi wants to build 100 smart cities in India, and we've got a lot of technology that can actually fit into that.
Before we continue, let's hear a little bit more from some of the delegation. I-24 News spoke with Secretary General of India's ruling party, BJP. Here's a little bit what Ram Madhav had to say.
This visit of Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, to Israel is a very significant visit. Government of India and people of India attach a great significance to this visit. In the last 25 years, we have had fruitful and useful collaboration between our two countries. Most important of them are agriculture and water resources related technologies that many states in India have today imported from Israel.
So, Dan, we just heard a little bit of memory lane briefly through some of those images also. And as you pointed to, the relationship used to be a little bit under the table. Right. There has been some talk about Narendra Modi ushering in a new era. He's also not visiting Ramallah, which is a change. Do you think does Israel already feel that this is a substantial shift in policy?
Well, again, we deal with economics. I mean, politics
Even
is politics. Economically, yes, definitely. We feel that there is we are now going to inaugurate tomorrow what is called the CEO Forum, which is actually bringing the top leaders from the economy in India with top leaders from Israel, which are going to, and we're going to launch that CEO forum, and then we're going to present recommendation to both the Prime Minister of Israel and of India. So we are really institutionalizing, if you want, much closer relation between the private sector, and definitely we can only expect from now on growing trade, growing joint venture, growing investment, and definitely India is a huge market. They grew 7.6% last year. The population is going to become the largest, and they are going to overcome China in several years. And also the composition of the population is different. China is actually getting older, and right. India is getting younger.
You mentioned many different fields, from all sorts of tech startups to agriculture, water, etc. What is the priority? What do you think, if you were to take a guess, looking ahead 5 or 10 years, what Israel's main sort of attempted export to these countries is going to be?
When you deal with a country like India, you have to see what are the priorities of India, and then to try to link up to those priorities. Okay?
How high on the list is defense, for example?
Well, defense is high on the list for India, because they have, as far as I know, some some military problem in some of their borders, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's China, etc. So obviously defense is important, but we want to shift from defense. We want to have the spin-off, the spillover out of defense. We want to develop agriculture, feeding the people, actually raising the standard of living of the people, water, drinking water for people. That's very important. Pollution, fighting pollution. There is a plan that Israeli technology will help clean the Ganges because it's being polluted. So you have several very, I would say, flagship project that Israel, again, very tiny, very small, but with its technology can do miracles.
Can be just the right fit. Dan Katarivas, thanks very much for that.